Hi, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to talk about some common mistyping problems. Problem number one is with ENTPs. Now, they've suddenly decided to change their personality. You'll often find that they've done the 16 personalities test online some time ago and actually got an accurate result, but they want to appear softer. They've had enough of rationality, or they've had enough of being perceived towards others to be cold, or towards others to be a certain way. So they'll often say that, oh, I'm an ENFP now, I've become more emotional, I've changed, I used to be sociopathic, now I'm emotional, now I'm an ENFP, now I care about people, now I'm more friendship oriented or whatever. The thing is, they're still an ENTP, they just misunderstand what it is to be an ENTP. And you'll often have this with ENTPs and ENFPs. So with ENTPs, they don't realize that they have extroverted feeling, and when you're talking to them, this extroverted feeling is constantly obvious. It's the introverted thinking and the extroverted feeling, and you'll often see this in them and think that this is, that they're actually quite kind, they're very complimentary, they're very outward looking, very reassuring, very, but there's no internal feeling, there's no introverted feeling, there's only the, I guess, the harmonizing with the other people, and that they don't realize that, if they've suddenly decided to become more emotional, to realize that they're more emotional, that they actually have that anyway. It's not a change in personality. Your personality doesn't change. It's solidified by the age of 3 years old. You don't change Myers-Briggs types. You probably either mistype yourself, or decide that you want to be something else, or you don't realize how it works, but it's consistent, and they will they don't realize what extroverted feeling is. They don't realize that having TI, or being a rational personality type, doesn't mean that you're cold. It doesn't mean that you're, stuck in the rationalist, scientific detachment. I mean, they often are very detached from their feelings, but that, even being detached from your feelings doesn't mean that there's no feelings. It just means that what you're presenting, or what you're comfortable in as a mindset is just slightly detached. It's not indicative of being any colder than anybody else. It's just a different way of being with others, or being with yourself. And so, yeah, ENTPs will sometimes decide, I want to be a kinder person now, and so I'm an ENFP, but it doesn't work like that. You're already a kinder person, and your idea of kindness is rooted in your extroverted feeling anyway, and your introverted sensing, and you'll often see when speaking to them the TI and the NE working, especially as an INTP, I notice this. But yeah, the extroverted feeling is usually very, very obvious. Second problem is with ENFPs, so they'll decide suddenly that they're colder than they thought. I'm less emotional than I thought I was, I must be an ENTP, I've been mistyped as an ENFP, or I have changed my personality, I'm no longer an ENFP, and that's not the case. What has happened is that they don't realize that, that throughout this whole time they're showing introverted feeling. I don't know, I find INTPs and ENTPs were very syllogistic about how we go about events and people, and it tends to be the ENFP is more impulsive and more reactive, and bit more of a drama kind of personality type. Like, I can only tolerate a very low level of drama. An ENFP will sometimes say, I'm less emotional than people think, and it's like, yeah, because you're rooted in your FI, your introverted feelings, so of course you're less emotional. It means you're more rooted in your sense of your own feelings, and you're more entitled to your own feelings, and more you have like an inner measurement of your own ethics, or an inner rod of like your own certitude towards emotions, or at least that's how it seems to someone who has FE. But I think that, that's how it seems to someone who has extroverted feeling. But I think that it's they don't realize that introverted feeling can sometimes be cold and entitled and dismissive towards other people. And so if they're, less emotional, it's just because they're still rooted in their introverted feeling. It doesn't mean that they've become more systematic. It doesn't mean that they've put, a kind of logical cage before themselves and their emotions, or before themselves and the world. They're still an ENFP. It's just, introverted feeling can sometimes be icy, because that's your own personal way of acting, or your own personal justifications, or your own personal imaginative landscape, which doesn't have to conform to others. ENFPs somehow think it's cooler to be an ENTP, and they think that it's, suddenly they've become more rational, or more logical, or more, cold, more of a scientist. But that's not really how it works. There's INFPs who are more controlled than I am because of the introverted feeling, and having that as a kind of rod through themselves, and they're even more detached than I am. So in an admirable way, not meant as a criticism, but an INFP friend, he's a lot more controlled than I am, and that's because he's very certain with his FI and his principles, and nonetheless warm and nonetheless people-focused, far more people-focused than I am, but or at least at surface level, because I guess it is all about surface level. And somebody commented on my previous video saying you still have the emotions that others have, or the same processes as others have. It's kind of filtered down to myself differently. It doesn't mean I don't experience emotions in the same way. And I think that goes for being people-focused as well. It doesn't mean that ENTPs and INTPs aren't people-focused. It just means that we think about it slightly differently, and probably at surface level will present it slightly differently. But yes, FI can be a lot colder than TI. More of an embodied presence of emotion when you're in the room with an INFP as to when you're in the room with an INTP or an ENTP, but or an ENFP. An ENFP can also be cold. It doesn't mean that being an ENFP makes you more emotional, or being an ENTP would make you less emotional. It's just, you don't understand what FE is, you don't understand what FI is. To meet ENTPs who will tell me that, I used to be an INTP, I used to be introverted, and now I'm not. Now I have social skills, and now I'm, I forced myself out there. When in every scenario with them, you can see the extroverted intuition come in first. So you just wonder, is this an INTP who's forced themselves to show more NE and to show more FE than they are ultimately rooted in? Or is this an ENTP who just was socially awkward or shy? Because you can be an extrovert and shy. And I do think that people can become more extroverted and more introverted over a period of their lifetime, but I don't think that, I don't think fundamental personality changes.